Why it gotta be that deep, though? Why it can't just be that two people was feeling one another and decided to give it a go? Every situation between a man and a woman ain't gotta become love and marriage. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes folks just want to feel good. Younger women be tight, hot, and ready. And an older man has more experience with a woman's body, so he know how to do things that them younger niggas just don't. This is Bedtime Stories, Growing Up Edition, Operation Anteater, bonus episode 2, part 2. When we left off, Regina and Angela had the knockout, drag-out fight that was well overdue. They both said things that neither of them would be able to take back or forget. But they were not the only ones having rather uncomfortable conversations on Sunday night. Over at the Lopez estate, Q, Big Wood, and LJ were catching up with Sincere. Q had invited him to a sit-down under the guise of wanting to have some manly conversation, since Q was planning to step down as head of the St. James organization. So he wanted to support Sincere in his bid to replace him and with his impending fatherhood. So over cigars and their drinks of choice, the men had discussed everything from possible promotions within the St. James organization to relationships and fatherhood. When Sincere started going into detail about his brief fling with Courtney and how she'd gone MIA and had been avoiding him, LJ quickly realized that she was more than just Big Nate's oldest daughter and Ezra's secret lover. She had to have been the covert who'd been involved in several operations, including the one to find out what the hell Sincere had actually been up to. And she was probably the person that they were there to keep Sincere away from. From Q and Wood's responses, LJ figured that they had just made the same connections to keep him talking and to see how much he would reveal. The men peppered him with what appeared to be innocent questions. What could have possibly occurred that would have caused Courtney to switch up? What, if anything, he remembered about the attack that he'd survived? And when those questions didn't get any real information out of him, LJ asked if it was possible that Courtney got cold feet because he was getting ready to be a father. When Sincere said that Janelle's pregnancy had never even come up in conversation between him and Courtney, Q asked if he'd seen or spoken to Janelle over the last 6 months. Sincere said, "Catherine's been keeping me rather busy, so Janelle and I have spoken briefly in between handling one assignment or another, plus recovering from my injury. I've been able to fly to Miami a couple of times and make a couple of her doctor's appointments. Catherine wants me to fly back there and stay there after the roundtable is over, because Janelle's due in a couple of weeks. She wants me to take like 6 months off. And I told her I'm not the one having the baby. I don't need maternity leave. I'm trying to take my rightful seat at the table, and I can't have all this baby stuff derail it." Annoyed as hell at the cavalier way that Sincere is talking about becoming a father, Q asks, "Have you considered working things out with Janelle instead of trying to figure out what's up with this girl Courtney? I mean, she's clearly not interested, and the heads have made it clear that it's going to be rather difficult for you to assume the head position without a wife." When Q didn't mention that Courtney had been on a date with LJ, LJ knew for sure that he, Q, and Big Wood were all on the same page. Then Sincere said, "I considered it, but I'm on the fence. I don't know if I can be with her again after she done been with another nigga. The whole pregnancy, she been seeing some dude." Big Wood said, "But you said you been sleeping with Courtney." And LJ said, "What's good for the goose?" Sincere said, "Nah, that's different. I'm not pregnant. I can't respect a woman who let a nigga bump his Johnson up against another man's baby's head." When the men laughed, Sincere said, "It ain't funny. That's nasty and disrespectful." Q asked, "And it's not disrespectful for you to sleep with whomever you want to sleep with while you have a woman pregnant with your baby? You don't see that as hypocritical?" I don't understand y'all niggas. I ain't never met men like y'all. Y'all talking like men should be held to the same standards as women, and that's unreasonable. Then Big Wood used the tablet to say, "I would think that almost dying would change the way you see life, your future, and becoming a father." Sincere said, "Almost dying made me want to enjoy my life that much more. It made me determined to have everything that I want." LJ, you got a new lease on life, right? You ain't almost died, but hell, you was married for a gazillion years. How many women you done took down since your divorce? When LJ just stared at Sincere, Sincere asked, What'd I say wrong?" Q said, "Like you said, we're not the kind of men you used to." Then LJ and Wood looked at one another and laughed. And then LJ said, In all fairness, though, Wood and I used to be a whole lot like you. And then we grew up. We learned that we weren't the only ones who mattered in the equation. If I was the only one who mattered, I'd still be married. Sincere said, you mind if I asked why you got a divorce? LJ said, I do. Let's just say we have different ideas about what it means to be one under God. I did all I could, and it wasn't enough. And to answer your other question, I spent 20 years with the same woman. I'm definitely ready, but I'm also not in a rush. I'm not as easy as I used to be. When the men chuckled, LJ said, I know what comes with casual sex, what it could cost a woman, what it could cost me. And now that I'm older and wiser, I know how important it is to be selective about the soul ties that I create. And Q, seeing the alley-oop, jumps in and says, and every eligible woman at service today must have gotten the memo that you single and ready to mingle, because all eyes was on you, bro. And picking up the opening, Big Wood said, and the young birds was flocking. And Sincere said, word? Why you ain't take something back to the nest? And all three men realized that Sincere had taken the bait. LJ said, one of them pushed up, but she was barely old enough to drink. I did the math. I was on the force the year that girl was born. They all laughed, and Sincere said, I don't see why that mattered. Long as she old enough right now for you to avoid jail time. You should have at least seen what that mouth do. Hell, Janelle just turned 21 a couple of months ago. I broke her in when she was 15, and I've been riding her hard and fast ever since. Just like trying to get me a taste before she had that baby. Cause I done heard about that pregnant bee. While Sincere was talking, all three of the men were doing the math in their heads. Sincere was only weeks away from his 26th birthday. So he just admitted to taking Janelle's innocence when she was 15 and he was 20. Because birds of a feather flock together, all three of the men downed their drinks in order to hold their tongues. They all wanted to beat the brakes off of Sincere. Wood downed his 1738 and stood up to go refill it. LJ downed his scotch and got up to fetch a lighter so he could relight his stogie. And Q chugged his bottle of water because he'd been dry for decades. LJ was the only one who was even interested in continuing the conversation. And not because he wanted to hear another damn word come out of Sincere's mouth, but because he wanted to hear what his friends thought. He asked, tell me something, fellas. How would you feel if your daughter was, let's say, between the ages of 24 and 27, brought home a man my age? Sincere said, I wouldn't care. She grown. She could do what she wanted to. Q said, I'd kill that nigga. Melissa has a boy her age right now, sniffing around her like a lost puppy. I want to put that nigga on a plane to El Salvador and leave him there. Wood asked, Spider is from El Salvador? Q said, no, he ain't never even been to El Salvador, and he don't speak Spanish. And all the men guffawed. Then Big Wood used the tablet to say, I don't have daughters yet, but I have sisters. And if they brought home a man 20 years older than them, I'd have questions. I'd need to know why a man that age would even be interested in a woman that young. What his motivation is, his intentions, what he sees in her that he hasn't been able to find in a woman his own age. I'd want to know the same from my sister. I'd be looking at it from a psychosocial perspective and concerned about the deeper implications associated with that power dynamic. Sincere said, why it gotta be that deep though? Why it can't just be that two people was feeling one another and decided to give it a go? Every situation between a man and a woman ain't gotta become love and marriage. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes folks just want to feel good. Younger women be tight, hot, and ready. And an older man has more experience with a woman's body. So you know how to do things that them younger niggas just don't. Q said, nigga, you 25. Sincere said, and I got 12 years experience. When I take down an 18, 19-year-old, I'm the best she ever had. Like I said, I don't see the big deal. Q said, what do you want with an 18 or a 19-year-old girl, Sincere? Sincere said, I just told you. It shouldn't matter because they legal. Big Wood used the tablet to say, it does matter. Who you're attracted to, who you entertain, who you sleep with, is always that deep. The mind is a powerful tool, and a broken, abnormal one is more dangerous than a bullet. Sincere said, man, I thought you was a gangster, not a damn psychologist. When he laughed and everyone else didn't, he decided that he was flirting with disaster and should probably make his exit. He drained his highball glass and said, well, fellas, it's been real. I'm gonna go on and head back to my villa. And since they were disgusted with Sincere, they didn't even try to stop him. When he left the room, Q called the lieutenant, who was stationed outside of the study, and instructed him to switch out with another lieutenant and escort Sincere to his villa, make sure that he stayed there, and report back to him if Sincere attempted to leave the property. Then he looked at LJ and said, "So I know that question didn't have anything to do with old girl who you went to dinner with. Let me guess. It was about the one who had you crying like a damn baby during service." When Q and Big Wood laughed, LJ said, "I love God." And in unison, Q and Big Wood sung, "You don't love God? What's wrong with you?" And all three of the men fell out laughing. Then LJ said, "So check it, right?" When LJ finished telling his two closest friends everything that transpired since Thursday when he first laid eyes on Lyric until his date ended with Courtney, and everything that he suspected about Lyric's background, Q said, "Oh, it sounds like little mama got you stuck." LJ said, "I wouldn't say that." Q said, "Fine, you've just found yourself another puzzle." And Big Wood said, "And we know how much this nigga loves a fine puzzle." And Q said, "He can't wait to get his hands on that puzzle and start putting the pieces together." Then Q and Big Wood guffawed. Then LJ said, "Come on, man, I'm just intrigued. This is serious business." Q said, "What kind of business, LJ? It ain't firm business. It ain't five family business." And Big Wood said, "It sound like heart business to me." When LJ started getting defensive, Big Wood used the tablet to say, "Cool your jets, man. Stop all that damn pump faking. You just spent 45 minutes waxing poetic about a woman you didn't know existed 3 days ago. The Nile is a damn river in Egypt." When LJ got quiet, Q said, "Seriously, what you feeling, bro?" LJ swiped his hand down his face and said, "I have no idea." Meanwhile, at the family complex in Denton, Anya's been tossing and turning all night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's been trying to fall asleep since 11. She can't wait for the sun to come up. She might not be able to make Easy talk, and she can't fire him, but she can for damn sure get his behind reassigned. And that's precisely what she plans to do. And when she does, she gonna do him just as filthy as she did Ron. She's planning to release Easy with no explanation. Let him drive himself crazy trying to figure out why. Because she meant exactly what she said when she said she wasn't gonna let another nigga play in her damn face. Right before she went to bed, she'd gotten off the phone with her mother, and she did not like the answers to the questions that she'd asked. Well, the answers weren't really the problem. It's what those answers meant that were the problem. And to add insult to injury, she had admitted to having feelings she didn't even know she had. And by her estimation, that was all Easy's damn fault. When church service ended, Anya was annoyed as hell. Ron was pissed, and he'd pissed her clean off. He tried to make Easy punching him in his face her problem, and he was blaming her for what Catherine had said. Catherine told him to stop doing whatever it was that he was doing that caused Easy to feel like he needed to punch him in the face. As a result, all the soldiers was laughing at him. Easy had not and would not be reprimanded, and he was still on Anya and the children's detail. Anya had refused to apologize because she'd had nothing to do with it. She didn't tell Easy to do it, and she really didn't care anymore that he'd done it. Ron was so mad and embarrassed that he didn't even stay for his own daughter's celebration after service. And with all the whispers, Anya just decided to leave as soon as she could to get her mind off Ron and his shenanigans. When she got back home, she asked Easy how it was that he was in a position to help her improve her speech reading skills. And Easy told her that he'd learned sign language when he was 10 years old at a deaf school in Trinidad. His childhood best friend was a student there. Eventually, he became one of the hearing volunteers who helped the deaf students with speech reading lessons. As Easy talked, Anya realized that Easy had to be referring to the same deaf school that she'd attended during summers when she'd visited Trinidad. So they had to have known the same people. Excited to be making this new connection, she'd asked Easy, "Who was your best friend? Was it Jean or..." And then Easy started signing, saying, "I was friends with a lot of the kids who attended the school. I spent a lot of time there until I graduated high school and went on to college." And then he quickly went back to answering her initial question. He said, "While I was learning the St. James business, I was learning how to teach ASL. And that's how I became one of the in-house ASL instructors for the families." And that caused Anya to pause. She wasn't just looking at a gangster. She was looking at a scholar. The Five Families ASL instructors were all college graduates with advanced degrees, licenses, certifications, and the only way Easy could have possibly joined their ranks was if he had the same credentials. And the only way that he could play both the role of a lieutenant and that of an instructor was if he had no life outside of those jobs and never slept, because both jobs were full-time, required additional training and different skills. So when she asked Easy, "Where'd you go to college?" his answer was vague. He said, "Texas, but I need to head out. My shift is ending, and I need to get to the main house so I can give a report. I'll see you tomorrow." Frustrated but intrigued, Anya was not about to let that go. If Easy wasn't going to tell her what she wanted to know, she'd call someone who would. When she told the Queen Mother about her conversations with Easy, the Queen Mother said, "And he is not obligated to tell you all his business. The man has been thoroughly vetted, and he has passed multiple background checks. He is not a Nepo baby. He earned his spot in the family. I guarantee you, you are safe, baby. You do not need to worry about his past." Anya signed, "That's all well and good, but I'm not going to have anybody, especially a man, all up in my personal space, acting cagey and secretive. It's a red flag, and I'm not ignoring red flags anymore." Then the Queen Mother signed, "Fine, Anya. What is it that you just have to know?" Anya signed back, "What are his credentials? Who is this mysterious friend that he refuses to name, and why?" The Queen Mother signed, "Hold, please." Then she grabbed her laptop, logged into the Five Families secure server, and accessed Easy's extensive file. After reviewing his educational information, she signed, "Ezra Rowan Jr., also known as Easy, obtained his bachelor's degree in ASL education from your alma mater. He also holds a master's degree in deaf education and deaf studies from Lamar University. He has a brown belt in Taekwondo, is certified as a range master in both handguns and rifles." And Anya said, "Pause. Did you just sign that he attended the University of Texas at Rio Grande?" The Queen Mother signed back, "I did. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right. His personal connections. Every childhood friend and adult associate that the families are aware of have been checked out and cleared." Then Anya signed, "You're hiding something." The Queen Mother said, "I don't know what you mean." But she knew exactly what Anya meant. And instead of wasting her time, Anya signed, "And this is why I don't trust these niggas. I gotta go. Thanks, Medea." The Queen Mother signed, "Wait." She could not let Anya get off the phone that quickly. When she saw his education file and the year he graduated, she was pretty sure she'd solved the mystery. And once she saw his list of friends, there was no doubt about why he'd been secretive. She'd seen Hilda Pierre at the top of the list of his childhood friends, and she was listed as more than a friend. Like Anya and Easy, she'd also been a student at the University of Texas at Rio Grande, despite the fact that they were all the same age. Anya and Hilda graduated a year earlier than Easy. The file also noted that he'd taken a leave of absence several weeks into the first semester of his senior year for personal reasons, and didn't return until the following year. What wasn't in the file, but the Queen Mother knew, was that Anya and Hilda were close friends, long-time friends. They'd met when Anya was 10, attending deaf school for the summer, and lost touch after Anya's fateful and last summer attending the deaf school when she was 12, and reconnected at freshman orientation in college. They participated in extracurricular activities for deaf students, and were pretty much inseparable, except for when Hilda was spending time with her boyfriend. Right up until a couple of weeks into the first semester of senior year. Whatever happened between Hilda and her boyfriend had devastated her. She barely survived senior year. She'd cut off all of her friends. And after graduation, she went on to medical school at NYU, and Anya never heard from her again. Neither Anya nor the Queen Mother knew what had occurred. But Easy just didn't seem like the type who would. Well, the Queen Mother had learned not to put anything past anybody. But she'd also learned that things are not always what they seemed. So before she did any digging, she asked Anya, "Are you interested in Easy romantically?" Anya quickly signed, "Absolutely not. I'm considering becoming a lesbian." The Queen Mother said, "Please tell me you're joking." Anya signed, "Considering that there is piss in the dating pool, I can't see how it would hurt to go fishing somewhere else." The Queen Mother signed, "Well, I'd like to think that I'm progressive, but I'm not that damn progressive. I won't judge you if you decide to do some exploring, but keep it to yourself. And give me advance notice if you decide that you actually want to change teams permanently." Anya chuckled, and then she signed, "I'm not interested in permanent. I'm trying to catch fun in flights, not feelings." Recognizing that Anya was serious, the Queen Mother said, "Baby, please do not allow one man's bad choices and bad intentions to convince you that all men are the same, because they're not. Your father was the perfect example. And before she could finish, Anya signed, I am not letting another man pull a wool over my eyes. God broke the mold when he made my daddy. And not even my brothers compare. Donovan tried to give me that very same song and dance. And I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told him. All a man can give me is a good time. But if it even looks like he's trying to deceive me, I don't want him anywhere near me. And while I am not interested in easy, that includes him. The Queen Mother signed, baby, don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. You could very well miss out on your forever love. Take it from me. You're about to be the matron of honor in your old mother's wedding. Anya signed, and I am overjoyed for you and Idra. I gotta stop calling my soon-to-be stepfather uncle. But I really don't think you understand. Bush medicine almost took my life. But I had no idea what it really meant to be staring down death's door. Until loving the wrong man almost killed me. The Queen Mother said and signed, oh, baby. And Anya signed, I gotta go. When she finished crying, because she'd been stoic from the moment she'd realized that her husband was unfaithful throughout the entirety of the divorce process. And every day since then, that last statement had broken her facade, learning that he'd used her to further his career and get on with the five families had broken something in her. Something that even her assault at 12 years old, being abused and blackmailed by the older brother of her assailant, and even the death of her father, couldn't even touch. It had rocked her at her core, impacted her self-esteem, altered the way that she saw herself, and made her question whether a man would ever see her as a whole woman. When she finished crying, though, she decided that first time would be the only time she'd shed a single tear over her marriage, Ron, or her limited value. She would accept what was, and if she couldn't beat him, she would join him. As a matter of fact, she was going to take Donovan's advice. He told her that she needed to have a conversation with True, Stephanie, and Rennie, and she was going to do just that. Because not only was she going to release Easy from his position, but she was going to make his life a living hell. And not just because he tried to pull one over on her, but because he'd broken the heart of one of her oldest friends, sending her running clear across the country and cutting everybody from her past off. If he thought that he could do the same to her, he had a whole nother thing coming. She was about to have Easy's head spinning around like the Exorcist, looking for her in the daylight with a flashlight, begging for a whiff of her yoni. And when he couldn't take it anymore, she was going to serve it up to him on a platter and leave him begging for more. Then she was going to drop him like a bad habit and let him watch as she did it over and over again to damn near any and every other man who came her way. Anya was about to be a problem, and she was going to enjoy every minute of it.